Try to sing. Ready?
Liru.
Mm-hmm.
You want me to grab?
Sorry, I was initiating the cache. What's up?
You want me to for said things?
No, I got it. That's why I reloaded cache. Anyway,
Not for rockets, but
no, hold on. I got this.
okay.
Just gotta give it a second.
This is
All
a
right.
special grabber. Oh. Rarely get to use these.
Yeah, we can do this one.
Oh. I guess that works too.
Yep. Okay, let's start the training by calling the stupidity. We just gotta, put our earplugs in. Okay.
And that's the
Respawn. It's AT training time, and less autism, please. Thank you.
And that's the introduction to the New Age Medical.
I know, right? They just fall over and freaking die.
The medical is really interesting.
I thought that was an MG42 for a second because the wooden stock.
It's a KSP. It's the Swedish one. Anyway.
Ah.
Alright, welcome to AT Grenadier Training. I'll populate the range when we get to it, and we'll shoot some stuff. But we're gonna do AT first, and then Grenadier stuff. Isn't that great? Yay! Oh, Kane, your frickin' TeamSpeak died. He might be about to disconnect, I don't know, but pet anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, I unkeyed my server, because A, I let the tier 1 add-ons mod in, or actually not the T3 add-ons, and B, people are going to keep connecting with ADV because they brought it back, but I digress. Let's talk about armor assets. So, as an AT guy, you got to know where to hit the vehicle. Does anyone know what type of armor this Gorgon has? Make sure you're on yelling so I can hear you over my loud-ass music. Oh God, King died. Okay, continue on. What type of armor does this thing have?
Faraday?
Rah. Speak up.
Faraday cage.
Okay. Slat cage?
Slat cage.
It is a slat cage. It's technically called spaced armor. See, spaced armor is spaced away from the main hull, and it's intended for HEAT warheads to hit the slat cage and impact, and the explosive energy of that warhead then dissipates along the slat cage, and not on the vehicle, thus making the crew safer, because they can at least tank 1 or 2 shots. Do note that for vanilla-style vehicles, the slat cage will actually have damage textures if you hit it. However, in mod sets like IFA that also have spaced armor on things like Panzer IVs, they're just part of the hull. So if you hit them, they'll still go boom boom. Does anyone know what type of armor this is?
Composite.
Composite, explosive reactive, paneled, I don't care what you call it. Basically, it's panels of reactive armor that when you hit it, causes a chemical reaction that takes the explosive force of the warhead and dissipates it among these plates. So if you're an AT guy, where do you not want to hit your vehicles?
Sides.
We just went over them, guys. Where do you not want to hit them?
Space armor.
Don't hit them on the armor. You gotta hit them in different angles, because if you just hit them on the armor, they're just, you're just literally letting them test out what they have against you, and you're wasting ammo. Does anyone know where the best place to hit a vehicle is?
Engine back.
Engine in the back.
In the back or the back of the turret?
Incorrect.
Totally.
Best place to hit a vehicle is from the top on the engine, which for some vehicles could be in the back. For some vehicles like this Bradley, could be in the front. Because in the back is the way where they carry all the dudes, because it's an armored personnel carrier. General rule of thumb is tanks and some IFVs usually have their engine on the front. If they're tracked, I would say their engine's going to be, in the back. So if they're tracked, I would aim for the back, the exception being the Bradley and a few other vehicles, which you'll learn as you play. But for APCs and wheeled assets, you generally want to aim for the front half where the crew is. Because, hey, if the engine doesn't get registered there, at least you're then doing damage to the crew themselves. I say from the top because the thinnest point of armor for most vehicles is the top plates. If you can't hit the engine, do you know where the second best place, in my opinion, to hit the vehicle is?
What?
Dr. Boom is right, the turret. Because if you knock the turret out, then you just have an expensive, slow-moving APC for 3 to 12 people. The 3 being the joke for the crew. Sure, it can run you over, though, but you can probably walk away. Plus, the AI probably won't do that, and if the Zeus tries to do that, you can just chew his ass out and debrief. Anyone know where the third best place to hit a vehicle is if you absolutely don't have any other shot?
The glacis.
The tracks. Because if you can at least mobility kill the vehicle, you can stop it from moving and then pop smoke grenades in front of it and run away. Easy. Anyone have any questions on where to hit vehicles?
No, sir.
Okay. Let's move up to the range. I'm going to quickly populate it with some stuff. Let's see. What do we want to kill today? What do you guys want to shoot at today?
MPs and
Give me a faction.
tanks.
Red 4.
Well, obviously Red 4.
Should.
You said
Alright, I'm going to start popping some random Russian stuff because you guys are boring. So, notes about the range, guys. Every flagpole is 50 meters, going up to 300 meters respectively. There will be additional targets outside of this range that I'll just populate throughout the training. But I'm going to get a good variation of armor here, because I feel like that's important. We're not doing a T14 because the T14 trophy system will stop you from hitting it, and it's quite hilarious.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
I literally had one last training and was wondering why nothing around it was blowing up even after people were shooting AT at it. I'm like, oh yeah, it's got that stupid trophy system thing. Alright, let's see. Let me get a 55 for some contrast. And that one's white, because, I don't know.
UN.
UN, yeah.
Actually, no, that's a winter model from Glob Mob.
Was it?
Ill.
Aliens.
And let's get a 72 that isn't broken like Granite's mission file. And we'll put that at the 250 mission mark. There we go.
How many shots did you put into it?
Well, no, he had 100 tanks running server side, so people were memory leaking because 72s have a script that when they blow up, the turret blows off and becomes a map asset. And you can't do that on mission files where it's running server side because that'll crash people out.
Which it did.
Oh, wow.
Alright, I digress. So, AT, we got 5 modules here. Do note that this won't be every type of AT that you utilize in this community. However, I try to explain everything with just these 5 modules because it overarches for everything. Now, quick reminder how to properly fire a rocket launcher. It's really simple. You make sure that you have the sights out because there's some rocket launchers where you have to hit the R key to actually get the munition in your tube. Metalize. And then you aim down your sight, you look at your target, you line it up, and then you yell clear back blast. And then you hold left alt and look behind you to make sure no one's behind you. If someone's nice enough and they're next to you, they'll yell back blast clear. Reminder for back blast, you want to be at least a few meters to left or right, shoulder to shoulder to them for the optimal not getting back blasted in the ass position, especially with the medical chains, that'll just surely fuck you up. So, stand away from them. And then, once they're clear, they're going to yell rocket, 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 and then pull the trigger. Now, second thing I'll say, earplug check. Make sure you have them in, but do note if multiple of you, if all of you fire at the same time, you're still going to get a bit of ear ringing. Can't do anything about that. Sucks to be you. Now, with all that said, let's go over AT. So, this is your single-shot disposable AT. It basically is a tube with a rocket pre-put into it, that after you fire it, you can just drop it and continue on with your life. This is meant to be the, oh shit, our AT guy is down and that
Sending
BMP2
goat
is
team
charging our
6
ass AT.
now.
It's not really meant to be relied on, except in an emergency, because normally you have AT given to a specific person, unless you're doing Spec Ops stuff. Which case, if you're fighting a tank as a 6-man team that's supposed to be running around doing spooky boy shit, you're probably doing the Operon anyway. So, in this category, we have various different things of RHSAT. I want you to note for the 136 and the M72, they are both AT that you have to prime. So if you were to take one and pull it out and hit the I key for your inventory, you're going to notice that there actually isn't any ammunition in the magazine slot until you hit R to prime the sights. So, like I said, some of the launchers you got to prep beforehand, because after you do that and hit the I key, you'll see the warhead. So if you ever pick one of these up and don't see a warhead in it, you're probably going to have to hit R to actually prime the damn thing. But anyway, going back to explaining. Your M72 is a fiberglass LAW, which is your earlier standardized AT from the Vietnam era. It is not really meant to do any damage to any modernized vehicles, because trust me, if you fire this into a T-72 from like 2003 with its advanced plating, it's just going to kind of laugh at you. Heck, I would argue most of this AT is not meant to be used against modernized vehicles from, I want to say, past the 1990s, as to it'll just tickle it. So this is the AT you want to prioritize on T-55s, T-34s, BMP-2s, because like BMP-3, BMD-4, T-70, advanced T-72s, advanced T-80s, that sort of shit, it's probably not going to do anything. We'll get to the next module, because that's something that can actually do damage against a Vic, but you're free to try it on the range. I have put some modern vehicles down. You can be the judge. I don't give a crap. Now, I'm going to bundle these next two together, your RBR M80 and your RPG 75, your Gref and SAF launchers respectively. Imagine taking a potato from your grandma's garden and then putting that potato in a tube and somehow being able to launch that potato at a vehicle. That would be more effective than the RBR M80 and the RPG 75. These are literal grenadier launcher tubes. So they do a little more damage than a 40 mic, but they will just tickle vehicles. And you're free to try it downrange. But, I'm just saying, these are trash. Don't actually try them yet. We'll clear you in a second. Then you have your RPG 26, which is your Russian equivalent of the law. Do note when you pull this one out, this demonstrates another interesting thing of if you right-click with it, you'll get a top-down sight. This is basically what you use if you're at point blank in your target. If you hold control and hit the right mouse button, you'll actually get to the sight that you can, hit the plus and minus keys. Actually, excuse me, page up and page down keys to properly adjust, and it'll tell you the sight lines on the top right of your screen. And then last but not least, you have one of my favorite terms in this class, the RSHG-2, because it fires a big suck round. For those of you not influenced by... Actually, no. What would I use for that? For those of you not familiar with Big Suck, it is basically the term I use for thermobaric ammunition, in which case it detonates, sucks all the oxygen out around the area, aka ignores armor values of the infantry, and just makes them drop dead. Very useful for giant clumps of infantry or if you're firing in buildings. So, that's not meant to be a launcher used against vehicles, that's meant against infantry. If you go to any RHS OP4 Grenadier from the Russian faction, the Grenadiers will also be carrying this weapon. Does anyone have any questions on any of these launchers or any single-shot launchers in particular?
Also,
Cool. I'm going to get out of the arsenal now. I'm going to walk over here and now tell you guys... Actually, one last thing. Because this is single-fire AT and you'll probably have to cross behind people to get new AT as we fire on the range. If someone has their launcher out and you need to pass them, this is exactly what you do. Falcon, look downrange. If you see Falcon's about to fire, Falcon, say clear back last.
We're back last.
Crossing behind, crossing behind, crossing behind, crossing behind. Now do note that I'm giving a lot more room. Normally when you're crossing somebody, and like let's say this was a machine gun, I'd just yell like this, crossing, 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 and then when I get to here I'd stop. However, because there's a risk of backblast, you give a lot more room when you're yelling it. So I'd probably start shouting from like right here. Crossing behind, crossing behind, crossing behind, crossing behind. And then about right here is when I'd be safe. Because trust me, someone actually asked me this a while ago. You want to cross behind him, not the front of him. Because if you get backblasted, that's going to be a lot easier to fix than you going in front of him while he fires.
Yes, one's a rocket, one's a air.
Yeah. I tested that with the fudge head, and he blew up, and we had bloodlust on, so we both exploded, and I'm like, yeah, that's why you don't do that. That was a while ago, but I thought of it. Anyway, range is hot. I'm going to be replacing vehicles as they cook off and blow up. But, yeah, have fun. I'll be over here if you need me.
Clear.
Alright. Cowdy Hawk, thanks for the 9-month resub. Sorry I couldn't get it immediately. I was working on stuff. Hold on. Falcon, you missed, you noob. Hope you keep enjoying the Ops Coyote, and I hope you get a little kick out of this training. Congrats, you hit a BTR 60, the weakest piece of shit in the game. Congrats, you hit a BRDM, the second weakest piece of shit in the game.
Put the T-55 further up, Liru. Come on.
No.
Oh.
Show me that you can make that shot, and then I'll consider it. God damn it, Falcon, you missed. No, you didn't hit it. It's not smoking. Oh, look, you hit it. It only took you 2 tries.
You know what? Backblast isn't clearly, right?
Oh, does invincibility not work anymore? That's awkward. Wow. Normally the AT isn't this effective.
Rocket.
Alright.
Swimming behind.
I don't have HDP for this. I got this. I will kill this T-55. Polar, oh, that's Liru for me.
Crossing behind, crossing behind.
What the hell? Oh, he's got the, okay. I see. There it is. I missed. Oof. Someone just backblasted inside.
Somebody told me.
Alright, bring it in. Bring it in, you chuckle fucks.
I love the new ice cream. Oh, it's amazing.
So, normally this is the part where I say, because I'm going to be honest, normally the damage is, not that great, but I'm willing to bet Ace updated and, like, completely changed AT again, so I'm not surprised. So, Yeah, that's how you use single-shot AT. Anyone have any questions on that?
Can I not be in pain, please?
I can't do that because Ace updated medical, and now Ace healing doesn't work from Zeus.
Run out
So if you don't like it, go respawn.
Run out there. Run out there. I'll fix your issue. I didn't mean that literally.
Go ahead. Clear back, Blast Falcon.
But one of you walked behind me.
But
Back close
Yes, he's dead.
Well, he was a flavor-inflated tube man for a second there. Oof.
Okay, no, one of them still worse. Alright,
Now he knows how AT hurts.
let's maneuver to the next module for AT. So, this is your reloadable AT. This is generally the types of rocket launchers we give to a person on the squad level because it's a lot quicker for them to reload a piece of AT than to carry multiple sticks. Do note that you could carry multiple sticks in your backpack, but you wouldn't be as effective because you'd have to take each one out and rearrange it, and that would take you a lot of time. So, we have a few different types of launchers here. The first one I'm gonna go over is the RPG-32. So feel free to take one out and look down range, because we're also going to talk about built-in rangefinders. So if you right-click on this launcher, you'll see that you have a lot of different sight lines here, going from 0.5 to 5. 0.5 is your 50 meters, 5 is your 500 meters, and those pluses are the sights going down respectively. Excuse me, something in my throat. But anyway, you have also, if you notice, the 1 to the 5, you've got these lines, and those lines get shorter. Now, I don't have any vehicles turned to the side because I personally don't like this built-in rangefinder because it's a little inaccurate, but in theory, this launcher is supposed to represent if you are standing perpendicular of an enemy vehicle, if you can fit it.
keyboard.
Are you okay?
Of the misfire.
Are you unwell?
Fire.
Do you have brain damage?
Not wrong.
Okay.
That
If
is-
you need to respawn, go ahead.
That is the first time I have ever seen someone misfire with an RPG. Actually, stand correct.
Get your RPGs back. I'm going to continue in 10 seconds.
I'm gonna leave my hand empty for now.
Yes, please.
Alright, anyway, if you stand perpendicular of your target, you are supposed to be able to fit the vehicle between those lines. If you fit it between the 1.5 line, guess what? Your target's about 150 meters away, so you just aim that and then fire. If you get it in the 4 or 5 line, you aim it accordingly. It's really simple. Does anyone have any questions on that?
No.
Don't always trust it because I found that vehicles are actually pretty different lengths. So it can be a little inaccurate at times, but that's the premises. I know if you use this launcher against any Blue 4 or excuse me, NATO or AAF vehicles, it is accurate, but some other vehicles are a bit longer or shorter, so yeah. We have no questions. Going back in the arsenal, I'm going to quickly talk about types of rockets. You have an RPG-42 rocket and a 42 HE rocket. Now, in this situation, if you see the term HE, that obviously means high explosive, but HE means it's used against infantry. If you see HEAT, it's used against vehicles because it's high explosive anti-tank. If you don't see anything, and it just says RPG-42 rocket like this, that means it's the HEAT. So that's the one you use against vehicles because the other one is explicitly stated. Also, you could probably look at the warhead texture and gain a little bit of insight from it. For example, the RPG-42 rocket has a little penetrator cap in front of it. So, you know, that's meant to penetrate the armor, and then the main warhead's supposed to detonate. That's what makes it the HEAT, because the AT penetrates and then the HE still detonates inside and kills the crew, or damages vital systems, or both. Capiche? Now I'd like everyone to switch over to the Sand Mods, because it is the mod 0. We're going to talk about this puppy. Now, with this one, you'll notice right off the bat that it has twice the effectiveness of the RPG in terms of range. That's because you can range it out to 1,000 meters. Also, if you look on the right, you'll see that there is a solid red line and a bunch of small red lines with numbers above them. The premises of that is as follows. If you take the top of the vehicle and the bottom of the vehicle and line them up, for example, let's look at that T-72 Pro, actually, forget what exact variant I put down, but the T-72 that has all the reactive armor by the 2S. And it's in front of the frickin' Katusha rocket truck, whatever you want to call that. Now, if I were to count, yep. If you line the bottom of the tracks with the turret, you'll see that it just barely fits in the 200 meter. It's a little taller, but technically with this weapon, you're supposed to line up the bottom of the chassis with the top of the chassis. So if you were to do that, then you would see that it fits perfectly within the 200 meter ranging. And if we were to count flags, 1, 2, 3, 4, every flag's 50 meters, it's also 200 meters away based off the flag system. But you won't have 50-meter flags in your AOs. You'll only have your built-in rangefinder. I'm just bringing that up to prove that that's how that thing works. You just line up the bottom with the top. That's how you get your range and shoot appropriately. Any questions on that? Cool. Now, if you were to look in the arsenal, you'll notice that this Moz also has HEAT and HE44 rounds. So it just tells you the difference between the rounds. Easy. Now, I'd like everyone to go to the Mod 1 Moz. This is your best friend because it makes ranging super duper easy. All you gotta do is sight the target, hit the T key, see that it gives you a little laser designation on the red dot. So anything you point that at and hit T on, it gives you a range, and then you just aim accordingly and fire. Modern technology. Does anyone have any questions on how to hit a button on your fucking keyboard and fire a rocket launcher?
Oh.
Awesome. Shut up, Falcon. Nobody loves you. Alright, range is hot. Have fun. I bully Falcon. He's been here a while, so. Congrats, Falcon. You hit it right on the plate.
Yeah.
Back blast, not black blast. Back blast. Okay, we are an open-minded community. Ah, it survived.
Was I missing anything? My armor
No. Actually, you did, but I'm not gonna repeat myself.
Why not? We all know that's the one thing you can do.
You want to see the second thing I can do, Falcon? Crossing behind. Continue on. Crossing behind. Hold fire downrange.
Very soft.
So let's get my warm up.
Alright guys, I have a special target at the 100 meter mark for you to test your HE. So you got 30 seconds before I release him from captivity.
Oh shit.
I'd rather you release them.
Alright, I'll release him. Hold up, I'm gonna put him at the 400 meter mark.
Okay, that's fine.
Turn around back, turn around back, turn on the back, turn on the back.
Here, let me lock all these vehicles so he doesn't get any cheeky ideas. Alright, he's been released. Please murder him. Guys, he's so dead he's not even coming up on my Zeus interface anymore. Good job. That was fucking brutal.
As I said, I would not want to be your fucking therapist.
Alright, let's bring it back in. I think that was a good note to end it on. So, what did we notice about the reloadable AT compared to the single-shot AT?
Go, go.
It takes less rockets with these.
Takes less rockets and shit dies quicker. Isn't that great?
Efficiency is key.
What?
Alright, now we're going to talk about the holy grail of AT. The hardest to master launcher, but in everyone's honest opinion, the best launcher in the game. The RHS RPG. And the only reason this is special and gets its own module is because it is the most common enemy launcher used in the game. And it's also one of the most common OP4 launchers you will use in this game. And since we're never getting rid of RHS, I think we all need to talk about it specifically. So, grab one of these launchers. Make sure you grab a PGO 7v3 scope. If you ever go to a full arsenal and look at this, you're going to notice that you have a shit ton of scope options. You basically want the one with the bigger number that's further down the list because basically means there's more warhead support for it. What I mean by that is we're going to go over a shit ton of warheads with this. And this launcher has been around since, like, what, the 60s, 70s? It's been around for, like,
70s.
yeah, it's been around for 50 years. So they've been making more and more adjustments with it to make it better. But with that, they've had to add new things on its sight lines to, you know, make sure people know how to use it. So, now if you were to go to your backpack, I'm going to go over what all these rounds mean. Your PG-7V was your original warhead. It is what first came with this rocket launcher in the 70s, and it was meant to be able to kill things like Sheridans or early Abrams or whatever the hell was being made at the time. Early Leopards, blah, blah, blah. Stuff that was unarmored and, you know, decently... When I say unarmored, I mean it didn't have any slat cages, any reactive armor, blah, blah, blah. It was, you know, this was the warhead you used to basically take those things down. However, they started, when I say they, I mean the world started making better tank models, better armor, more deadly vehicles. So the Russians invented the PG-7VL rocket, which is literally called the Improved Heat. So this is meant to take on your BMP-2s, your Abrams, your Bradleys, all that stuff, as long as it doesn't have reactive armor. Now, of course, reactive armor came out, and the Russians were like, shh, we got something for that. So they invented the PG-7VR, also known as your tandem heat rocket. This thing is a heavy, slow-moving mofo that has a penetrator cap and then an explosive warhead. It's meant to basically penetrate into the vehicle and then detonate inside. We already talked about that in the previous module. However, this thing has a very limited range and flies very slow. You'll see that when you fire it. Now, the Russians realized that tanks weren't the only thing they had to fight. There were also infantry, so they invented the OG-7V round. This is basically your HE, and in my opinion, the best HE round in the game. Has a big blast cap on the front of it, and although it looks small, trust me, it's bigger than your dick. And it can dick down a lot of dudes in its radius. Then you have the TBG-7V, also known as the Big Suck. Now, I've tried to get TSB to rename this to TBS instead to notify that it is the Big Suck, but we're going to have to stick with TBG. Thermobaric round, you fire that in a crowd of infantry, sucks the oxygen out of their lungs, kills them instantly, ignores armor, and then it also can be fired in buildings for the same effect, but a bigger radius because it's a confined area. And then you have your Type 69 Airburst. That's the equivalent of an HET grenade. We'll talk about that in Grenadier training. Don't use it. Essentially what it is you fire it, and then it hits the ground and then bounces in the air and detonates. It's like shooting an RBR, M80, whatever, from the first module. It's just going to tickle people. And then you have your PG-7VM heat grenade. Those are vanilla warheads. They suck. Don't use them. Again, it's like firing an M80 or RBG, whatever, at the tank, and it's just going to point its gun, excuse me, Gunner's gonna laugh at you, and then he's gonna mow you down with a 120mm. So don't use those last 2 warheads ever. Use the other 5. Anyone have any questions on warheads or big suck?
Can we shoot?
No.
Let's give him a warm
Because-
up, shall we?
Giant dildo warhead.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Now we have to consult the charts! The charts! The fucking charts! Oh shit, Falcon died because he disrespected the chart. Anyway, so, if you were to pull your launcher out and look down the sight, you're going to notice that it lines up with the chart. Now, I'm going to point out a few symbols here. If you ever see an M, the M represents your PG-7V heat round, your original AT. Do note that based off the chart, since you follow these lines, with that being your bore sight, aka where the rocket's going to go when you fire, at point blank range, you can range this accurately up to 500 meters, and you can approximate past that with the scope. However, do note some of these warheads have a a maximum flight time, so past these recommended ranges, they might detonate on their own. So be mindful of that. So this sight is effective up to 500 meters. Also, for those of you who don't know, because Falcon brings up an interesting point, we have prone launcher, so you can go prone. And do notice that with the animation, you like immediately drop down. So if you want to like run up to a tank and like 360 drop down shoot it, I won't judge you. Other people might though. I digress. And you have the sight lines on the right. If you ever see a pi symbol without the little tail, that's your PG-7VL rocket sight. And it's effective up to 300 meters. The reason it is less effective in terms of range than the 7V is because it is a heavier warhead. And if we were to actually look at them, if you look at Falcon's warhead, notice that it is plump and thick and has no wrinkles. But Dr. Boom's has a bunch of wrinkles because he likes it ribbed for whatever reason. So, that's why it flies less distance at the same range because it's a heavier warhead. If you want to see a real difference of that, I would recommend firing a 7V and then firing a tandem heat, and you will see the difference of what it means to fly slower and at a lesser distance. Trust me. And then you have these 3 circled areas down the middle. This is your OG-7 frag round. Maybe small, but it does have a limited range because it is a thick boy, because that warhead is extra jam-packed with all that HE shrapnel goodness that your enemy infantry hates. And you love. And then you have your thermobaric big suck and your tandem heat anti-tank murder toys. Those follow these barked bearings below right here. Up to 200 meters. And if you want 50 meters, you aim at around the 4. Basically between the 3 and the 4 of the PG-7V. And if you notice, right here you got these lines. That's your built-in rangefinder that we talked about with the Mod Zero Moz. Convenient, right? Everything else you see on this chart, I'm going to tell you to ignore, because then I have to start speaking in Russian, and I'm not Makarov. Anyone have any questions? Alright, range is hot. Like I said, feel free to try a 7V and then a tandem heats, because you'll see immediately what I'm talking about. Whew. I'm debating if I'm going to add the M47 Dragon in this training. I might have to, because a lot of people have been expressing interest in using it.
Clear, back blast. Rocket.
Clear.
Don't kink shame. Yeah, right?
Fuck your Shoko.
Rocket, rocket, rocket.
Bunch of Shoko. Yes.
Blech.
Rocket, rocket.
Ah, stuff exploding.
Clear back blast.
Clear.
Rocket, rocket, rocket.
Let's see, where's the,
The big suck. Hold on, where is it?
it's VDV. No, it's
Here it
TV.
is.
Rocket blast. Rocket.
For the rocket.
Bye, ATC. I went into it.
Ugh. Ugh. No, we're not doing the fucking potato again.
Jesus Christ.
Gonna break that plane.
It's invincible. You won't be able to.
Here, you guys want to shoot the T-14 and see why it's a piece of shit?
Sure.
I'm not hit by more.
We just got.
Where's the T? Oh, there it is. It just deleted.
The trophy system literally deletes your warhead. It is the dumbest shit.
Rocket.
You all gotta fire at the same time.
Liru, can I shoot
Kill
Falcon
triggered.
since he's running out on the range?
Yes, Falcon is now part of the range.
Rocket.
Jesus. Alright, the target has been deleted and Fluffers has claimed the corpse. Excellent. Continue on. Woo.
I swear, if I had a gun, I'd shoot you. Just for that statement. Good God.
Alright, hold fire, hold fire, hold fire.
Yes. Oh, never mind. It's lock-ons.
Like I said, this launcher, easy to learn, hard to master, but if you master it, it is the deadliest mofo out there. Now, congrats, we have gone over everything in terms of rocket launchers, and now it's time to talk about missile launchers. Difference between a rocket and a missile is when you fire a rocket launcher, you're firing a dummy piece of ordnance that, you know, it might hit. A missile, you still have some control over it after it fires, or you got a lock-on before you fired it, and it'll home in on its target. Might not be the most effective because there's things pilots and tank crews and stuff can do to evade missile lock, but hey, you got the lock-on, that's all that matters. Now, first thing we're going to talk about is the Metis. That's because the Metis is its own little unique thing. So if you're to pull this out, first off, you're going to notice, if you go to backpack, you have HEAT and HE. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, I think when you're using missile launchers, HE is a waste of time unless you have a vehicle that you can fill with these puppies. Because for the amount of space that these missiles take, you're better off just bringing HEAT and playing your role and killing any big tanks that show up. Because trust me, if you're given this, big tanks will show up. And I'd rather you bring HEAT missiles instead of bringing a few HE because I've got infantry to kill infantry. You've got this to kill tanks, and my infantry can't kill those tanks. Only you can with this Metis. So, don't use HE with these. That's all I'm saying. Unless you have a shit ton of storage room. Now, if you scope in, you're going to immediately notice that, like your mod 1 mods, you can hit the T key and get a range and fire accordingly. And if you fire this and then look left and right, the missile will basically sway up and down or left and right, depending on which angle you're going at, and try to home in on the target. Now, do note, at targets at longer range that are moving, if you're trying to correct your flight path, but you overcorrect, the missile will overcorrect right and then go left, or vice versa, depending on where you're overcorrecting to, and it's quite possible that your warhead can actually bounce over or around the target while you're correcting. So keep that in mind. Maximum range of this launcher before the missile detonates is 1,500 meters, so keep that in mind. Now, if you hit the N key while you're scoped in, you'll notice you get a few different types of thermal vision. An orange white hot and an orange dark hot. White hot means it's white, dark hot means it's black. I don't know why I didn't just say black hot, but, you know, someone already made a... Never mind. Okay. Any questions on the Metis?
Magic missile.
You can't magic missile yourself anymore. They fixed that with the tank DLC update, unfortunately. Now, if the target has an active thermal signature and is a vehicle, So basically, the vehicle is on. You could then hit the T key and just lock onto the target and fire. But none of the vehicles are on, so you can't lock on. Big sad. Now, you have the Titan as your next one. Now, all I'm going to say about this, because with Ace, it acts exactly like the Javelin, but when you're in Vanilla, you have your White Hot and Dark Hots, and then you also have the T key to range your target, and then, yeah, if it has an active engine, you hit T, and then you can fire it. It also, if you hit F, has the difference between a top-down and a direct fire mode. Now, because this acts like a Javelin, it actually highlights top and direct. Furthermore, Ace has its own functionality to switch between top-down and direct, and it overrides Vanilla. So for the sake of not confusing you guys, just use the Vanilla method. It works fine. Now, let's talk about the crown jewel of missile launchers, the Javelin. Javelin is nice because you have a clue system with a tube. So the tubes actually act like our first module with disposable AT. However, with RHS, they actually let you reload this thing. Now, in mods like 3CB, the clue system can come separate to the tube, and to combine them, you just do an Ace Interact under equipment. Because your assistant would carry the second tube that you would then attach this to. But I digress. You scope in, and you're going to notice if you hit T or try to fire it, here's me clicking my mouse, it doesn't fire. That's because it doesn't fire with a lock on. To lock, you got to hold tab. However, you can't do this while looking at the normal camera. You got to go to a thermal version because it doesn't lock on either way. Then you hold tab, and then you'll see that a box kind of lines up around your target. And then when the seek button highlights and you got a plus going through your screen, that means you're locked on and that bitch is dead. Now, this thing can lock onto anything. It can lock onto vehicles, aircrafts, chads, bunnies, fish. JK about the fish, but if they were actually scripted in the game as animals, you could lock onto it because this thing locks onto anything that can make a thermal signature. Not if it is, can, because all these vehicles are off, but you can still lock onto them. It's silly. So, anyway, same as the other launcher, you can hit F, switch between top and direct. Top is nice, however... Okay, so top is good because, as I said earlier, armor is weakest on the top. However, modern countermeasures, such as deploying a bunch of smoke and then the vehicle moves a little to the left or right in that smoke, can completely negate a top-down attack. And they also have warnings on the more modern tanks, so they'll automatically pop the smoke and move. And as of 1 or 2 Arma hotfixes, it actually won't kill the vehicle. In fact, it'll completely avoid it. So sometimes you might just want to use direct or manual fire, but with the Javelin, you can't manually fire it. You have to get a lock on. Javelins are also really, really good AA. Because for some jets, they don't get a warning lock when you fire a Javelin missile at them. And it's a really dickish thing to do, which is why I do it all the time.
It's infrared.
Anyone have any questions on these launchers?
Shoot it.
Yep, actually not yet. I will call this in. Clear backblast. Lock your targets. Gonna give you all 10 seconds. Boom, pull out your launcher. Lock onto something.
Ready.
Alright, we're firing. I'll give the countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 5, 5, fire. It's so beautiful to watch that. One of you just... Okay. One of you, I thought, screwed up your lock on because the rocket almost came back. Alright guys, free range. Feel free to try to find the hidden off-road. Test the Medices out. Have fun. Definitely test the Metis out because I want you guys to see the wobble effect. But do note how, like, you know, the T-72s insta-died.
Jesus. Artillery, the worst.
Ah, man.
Oh.
Back last.
I'm just on my phone checking things.
Yeah, the back one.
Why are you shooting a menace at 100 meters?
Why aren't you shooting a menace at 100 meters?
Because it's a waste of $1 million rocket.
Bold of you to assume I care about what things cost in this community.
I'm surprised you care what costs. Oh, it's Nibus.
Alright, clear, oh, stop firing, stop shooting. English. If you have tinnitus or whatever the hell it's called, because I can't English, just respawn. I think Polar understood me. Alright, we're going to talk about AA launchers now. This is the last module. I won't do a demonstration because I'm too lazy to make it happen. But anyway, AA, really simple, guys. If you look on this table, you have a Titan AA launcher. That's because in vanilla, the Titan MLRS works as its own thing. No, it's MPRL. MLRS is missile launcher for a rocket artillery. But I digress. Basically, with Ace, this works like a javelin. However, in vanilla, it's just you look at it, you lock on with the T key, and you fire, and it only works against air assets. But anyway, in the arsenal, you have the Chad Stinger, and then the piece of shit. If you ever get a choice, you want to use the Chad Stinger over the piece of shit. However, I have seen the piece of shit do crazy things against AI, like the AI flares the round off, and then the rocket just turns around and still hits the bitch. I have a few highlights of that. It's stupid, but you might get lucky. But against players, never ever use the Igla, because the Igla is the easiest thing to dodge a lock from. If you ever find a Strela is also pretty good, but you generally don't see that in our mod set. So, digressing. How you use this is really, really simple. You pull it out, you look at the aircraft, and it locks on for you, and then you shoot. If it doesn't lock, or it locks on the set different wrong target, line it up with the target you want, and hit the T key once every 2 seconds until you get the lock. If you have it lined up on the right, you'll hit the T key once, and it'll lock it on the right target for you. Now, a few things to note about firing AA. First off, how to fire it properly in terms of where the aircraft is flying. They're on a helicopter, you want to fire it while it's flying away from you or perpendicular to you. That is because it's easier for the missile to follow the target if it is not having to do any crazy maneuvers. For example, if it flies right over you, you don't want to shoot at it if it's literally flying right over you, because the rocket has to basically bend backwards like I'm doing-ish. And, you know, it's very easy for the missile to then lose the lock without the pilot even having to flare. So don't do that. For jets, you generally want to fire at it when it's flying away from you or directly at you, but still at a good range. That's because then the pilot has to literally bank left or right, or if he's flying towards you, abort his gun run, which in my opinion, that's the best time to hit him because they aren't expecting it. They're lining up their gun runs and you fire that missile, and then they're usually, even if they evade left or right, if they're close enough, you're going to guarantee a hit. But I digress. That's also the riskiest because you don't know when he's going to fire and he doesn't know when you're going to fire. But that's where you fire at if, you know, you're trying to line up a shot. However, if it flies right above you and it drops a bomb or something, just take the shot so you don't get blamed in debrief for not taking the shot. There's my little word of wisdom for you. Anyway, a few other things. Guys, do you want to fire like this?
No.
Why do you not want to fire like this? Yes, you'll backblast on the floor and kill yourself. Now, let me line this one up properly. Why would I not want... Let's say that helicopter, that Mi-24 is about to take off, and I'm going to go, oh, I'm going to fire like this. Why is this not a good idea?
Hit the floor.
You'll hit the fucking floor. I had some Chad a few weeks ago. I was playing in an op. I was pulling wounded away from an area, and an Mi-24 was taking off uphill. So the guy basically fired it into me in front of him because the missile dropped right at my feet, and I'm like, oh, thanks. And then I cussed him out because I was pretty mad after they brought me back alive, but I digress. Don't fire it parallel to the ground because the missile's gonna drop into the ground, and it's gonna make me mad if you do that to me.
We're climbing up, we're not extreme up.
Does anyone have any questions on AA?
Grenadier.
Cool. We are gonna get to Grenadier. That's next. Alright, so all of you feel free to respawn, and I'll see you in Grenadier.
Holy ho.
Ah!
Fuck.
Fun.
Ew.
Hey,
Hey, case.
Congrats, you all made it. Let me quickly check in Zeus for the one idiot that spawned in AT. Stand by. He'll join us shortly. Okay, so let's talk about Grenadier stuff. So, we've got two types of launcher systems. We have the 320-230 and the GP25. I'm going to lecture over both systems and then clear you on the range as I give you all the proper tags on the spreadsheet. But on the table, we have a few different types of systems. First off, we have the 6-shot launcher. I don't have that in the arsenal because that's pretty easy. Zerb, give me 1 second. Zerb, the small falls into reloadable AT, so I don't display it. Like I said, there's a bunch of different launchers that you could do. But I only have a few because otherwise this AT training would take hours. Sorry, digression aside, wanted to answer a question. 6-shot, real simple. You'll load it with 6 rounds, or you can load it with the individual rounds, but not the 3 GL rounds, so keep that in mind. And you just fire it. You rarely see that used in Arma, but we do have an op once in a blue moon where we use it, so I have it on the table for reference. Then you have the 3GL system from vanilla weapons, and also some modded guns do use the 3GL system as well. It also has a red dot on the side, so basically you use the first shot to range your target in, and then the other 2 shots to deliver maximum damage. Sometimes you use the second shot as a range shot too, just to get that third shot in where the enemies are, and again, do maximum damage. Then you have the 320 and 230 systems. Do note that the 320 system also has a secondary version that can be carried as a secondary weapon in place of your pistol if your Zeus is weird like that, which I sometimes do. So, everyone gather around the arsenal, and I want you all to grab a 203 system. After you do that, I want you to look at it, hit the F key twice, and note that, it gives you a top sight, and you can range it up to 250 meters. Now, what is the problem with this Grenadier sight?
The bigger the sight, it's gonna block you.
Exactly. If you are using a top sight and you have an ACOG scope, you're not going to really see this Grenadier sight because the ACOG scope's in the way. You're going to have to put the scope off to use it. That's because this system was made back in the 70s, and rifleman-based scopes weren't really a thing until the early 2000s, late 1990s. So, the US government, realizing their mistake, made the 320 system. If you all want to go into the arsenal and pull one of these out real quick. Deadwalker, thanks for the 27-month resub. I'll see you tonight as well. I'm Zeusing 2 ops tonight. The public 4 p.m. op and the 6:30 modded op. And those are both open to the public. If you have the realism mod set, at least for the second one. Now, for this one, you'll notice if you hit the F key, it opens up on the left, and you can page it up to 350 meters, making it 100 meters more effective than the other one. So, now I'm going to go into the arsenal here. I'm going to grab a copy of every one of these rounds of ammunition, and we're going to go over stuff. Also, while I do this, guys, I need you all to go into the arsenal, hit the plus key, and grab a Hunt IR monitor. We will need it for later. As I digress, though, I will be loading in my HE round. And here are the different types of Grenadier rounds. I'll give it a second because some of you are still in the arsenal.
What?
Go into arsenal, go to your backpack, hit the plus button for miscellaneous items, grab a Hunt IR monitor. You're going to need it for the last round.
That makes sense.
Now, let's go over the rounds. So, your standard HE 40mm, you fire it, it explodes. It's good against infantry, and it can also hit things like BTR 60s, BTR 40s, weakly armed or open top vehicles or gun trucks, technicals, and, you know, kill the crew inside. Basically, for that weapon, or excuse me, that piece of ordnance, you're aiming to basically kill infantry with it. Now, you have your HEDP, High Explosive Dual Purpose, excuse me. High Explosive Dual Explosive, that's funny. Tongue twisted. Anyway, if you fire this, you're going to notice that it had a slightly smaller explosion. Still had shrapnel. But the point of that is if you're fighting things like BTR 60s or gun trucks or BTR 70s, things that have a little more armor, this round is meant to be able to penetrate that armor and detonate inside, similar to a tandem heat grenade warhead that we saw in the RPG section. But it's meant to also be a bit of light anti-vehicle. So where HE doesn't have that penetration, can det on the outside, the HEDP grenade can actually destroy things like BTR 60s or gun trucks, or at least cause significant damage to force the crew to bail out. So that gives you some AT capability, so that the AT guy, if they're at close range, doesn't have to waste a warhead on a BTR 60. Now, your third round, the HET grenade. This is like the airburst round we talked about in the RPG section that you should never use. You fire it, it bounces, and detonates. Basically, when it bounces up, it adds more surface area to the explosion, and thus the shrapnel goes farther, thus making it deadly. Deadlier than an HE grenade. However, you can't control the bounce. Furthermore, you can't really use this in buildings and shit, because it's going to bounce around like crazy. And, actually, let me re-clarify that. You don't want to use this when you know there's civilians or HVIs that you need to rescue or capture, because you're not going to be able to predict the bounce. However, if it's a big building like the warehouse to our right, this round might be decent because you can bounce it off a wall and then get it on the inside in the middle and detonate everything. Easy, right?
Ping pong ball.
Yeah, pretty much. Now you have your GL stun round. For those of you that aren't familiar with RHS stun, it's a bitch. It basically will deafen you pretty hard. I don't know why Falcon's running in there, but I'm not going to use this against him because even I have mercy. But it basically will force the AI into an animation that you can then run up and cable tie. It used to do damage. I don't think it does anymore because that used to actually kill civilians and unarmored targets. But like I said, I don't think it does that anymore. But don't quote me on that. Now you have your M576 buckshot round. That was beautiful. He actually made a noise. Basically, it fires like 8 little pellets, and they go around and hurt people. Oh, wow, yes, it does work. Thanks, Falcon. But in my opinion, why would you use that when you could just use your bullets? You're not using a shotgun. You have a freaking grenadier rifle. And, you know, that one round of space could be much better used for like an HET or HEDP or Hunt IR round. So, just use your bullets to shoot people or fatal funnel people. Because watch this. Is that 1 8-round thing where you now have to spend a few seconds reloading useful? Or is this useful? I'll let you be the judge. But I digress. Now you have your flare round. Flares, really simple. You fire it in the air, and it illuminates stuff. I'm going to tell you not to fire it in the air, though, unless you're playing Unsun, in which the flares are little mini nuclear suns that illuminate the area across a wide range. Instead, if you're doing a night op, and you see enemies over there, but it's poorly lit, you want to fire this puppy right at the enemy. Because then, after it goes off, like it just did, you can say, guys, enemies at red flare. And this would be northwest. You don't even have to do a compass bearing, because everyone's going to see that flare, see the enemies, and start shooting. The flares only last about 30 seconds. Some can last up to a minute and a half if you're playing on Sun. But general rule of thumb is they last about 30 seconds. Also, flares are useful for target designation for aircraft. So if you're the JTAC, you're probably, actually no, you're almost always going to have a grenadier rifle, because you'll be given flare and smoke rounds depending on the situation. And you'll be able to basically tell air, hey, shoot at the targets at red flare or red smoke. And then they'll pretty much liquidate them with their ordnance. Speaking of which, digressing into the smoke round. Smoke rounds are iffy. You can use smoke rounds to either fire it in front of you and then conceal yourself. Now do note, if you hit Shift K, you can see the wind tracker on the top left of your screen. Right now, wind is negligible, which means smoke will only blow a little bit. However, if that dial is pointing in a direction, that means the smoke is going to blow in that direction. But anyway, I am going to try to mark out that BMP. I think that's a PBR3 or something, but I digress. I'm going to fire this like right on it. And note that my round bounced to the right. It's still bouncing. So, this isn't meant to tell your guys, hey, there's a target over there. This is meant for an area target. So one of you, again, fired right at it, but it still bounced. It bounced over that fence and went away. So, guys, real simple. If you need to use this thing, just tell air it's around the smoke, all right? Not directly at. So, like, let's say you're getting suppressed by that tree line. Pop the red smoke grenade near that tree line. Just tell air that it's the tree line by the red smoke grenade. You know, reference red smoke, and then, you know, tree line west of red smoke, east of red smoke, and air will get your message. So, like I said, it's mainly used for basically target acquisition by air, because as you can see, individual target acquisition for infantry with this thing is a little inaccurate. Let me tab out real quick. I gotta check something. Okay. So I'm checking the stonk thing. Stonks!
There it goes.
Okay. Now, last round. My favorite round of Blue 4. You have the Hunt IR round. This puppy, depending on where the wind's blowing, because you don't want it to blow into your enemies, giggity, you fire it right in the air. Now, if we stare up in the air, you're going to see a little smoke billow come out. There it is. And then you have a little parachute with a round on it. Now, if you hold control Windows, now if you hold control Windows, go to Equipment and activate Hunt IR Monitor, it's going to turn on. Buttons are going to light up, and it's going to say Searching. And then it's going to say Connecting. And then you're going to get a little camera in the sky. And since we're all in the same squad, you can actually see our color symbols by spawn. And you can look at us and wave hi. Anyway, to maneuver around with this camera, use the arrow keys to look around. And then you use A to zoom out and D to zoom in. Again, A to zoom out, D to zoom in. And then if you have multiple Hunt IR cameras in the air, you use W and S to toggle and cycle together. Toggle or cycle through them, and it'll say camera 1, 2, 3, or 4 on the top right. Also, your level of zoom if you're acoustic and don't... Fucking English. Autistic. And, yeah. I feel stupid now. Also, it'll give you your GPS grid ref on the top left, and a 5-digit, or a 4 and 5, excuse me, and then your current altitude. And then recording time on the bottom left. Now, few things to note. You can actually shoot at the parachute and it'll fall faster. Helps if I load a magazine. Your child is acoustic.
There's a fresh one in the air, Liru.
So it's hard to tell. Alright, that's fine. I swear I've hit it and it's falling faster. Because basically you're putting a hole in the parachute. Yep, there it is. So at that rate, that one's going to fall faster than the other one. But you can shoot it, put holes in the parachute, and it'll fall quicker. Now do note that it won't aggro AI, but if the Zeus notices that thing land by the AI's feet, they're probably going to aggro the AI. And if it hits the ground, it just despawns. So, boop, goes away. But yeah, we give that to Grenadiers to basically give them a sense of, if you're in an urban environment, you pop that in the air, you know where your guys are, you can see where the bad guys are, and then your squad leader can make a plan with that information at hand, without having to rely on relaying with a drone asset or air to do their recon. They can, you know, make their own actions. Anyone have any questions on the Blue 4 ordnance for the Grenadier system? Alright, now we're going to get into the Chad GP25 system. Like the RPG, this one's a little more difficult to master because unlike those fancy sight lines you get, this one, you have a little nudge on the left side of your gun. And it can be ranged up to 400 meters, practically turning your rifle into a little hand mortar. Now, I'm going to grab one piece of ordnance to show you all what these mean. Alright. Now, let's go over it. First off, you have your VOG 25 round. This is your HE 40mm. You fire it, it explodes. Easy. Then you have your VOG 25P. Notice if you're reloading these, it'll tell you on the top right what they are. This is your HET grenade. You fire it, and it bounces. And it bounces. And it bounced again. And, there we go. Now, do note with the latest RHS update, they kind of broke the time for the, HET grenades for OpForce, so don't use them. Because as you noticed, that was very, very far away from where I shot the damn thing. So, yeah. Then you have your TB round. This is your Big Suck round. That's right, they gave you a Big Suck launcher under your rifle. And it's really fun, because if Falcon were to run out...
Get there eventually.
Who wants to see a little light show? I do!
On my logos.
Now, notice we also all just got burned. That's because, yeah, this thing has a pretty long range. But we're still okay, I think, in terms of medical. We probably only took a few light wounds. That's okay. Big suck. But yeah, Falcon is, he's dead. Now, you have your VG40SZ round. This is your stun grenade. Oh, poor Falcon. So, he is probably experiencing some of the worst ear rape you can get in Arma 3, and I feel bad for him, but at the same time... Oh? Oh! Oh! Oh my god! Oh, that's beautiful! Oh my god! Ah, that's great.
It went hella far.
Ay, ay, ay. Alright, I'll be back in a sec. I love this game. All right.
Your internet have a seizure?
1 second, hold on.
Oh.
Nothing again.
Liru, you want to try the stun grenade
Wah,
again?
wah.
So guys, the RHS OpForce stun grenades, I'm gonna recommend you don't use those, okay? because they're so powerful, they'll shut off your DNS server for your internet for a few seconds, and you'll lose connection to everything. So don't use those, okay? Because otherwise, it's a Russian round, and the Russians hack your shit anyway, so it actually makes complete sense. So don't use that. That's bad. Don't get DNS'd by the Russians. Switch to DirecTV. I don't know. I think we all learned something there. Alright, let's talk about the last few rounds. Okay.
Players.
Gonna whiff my gun out right here. Reload. Let's do a 40 OP grenade, which is our flare round. Simple. You fire that in the enemy. It illuminates them. That one had a little bit of a bounce, but it wasn't too bad because it falls right to the ground. You tell everybody, hey, look, bad guy's over there. Now we have our GRD smoke. Now, RHS smoke is interesting for OP4 launchers. I'll show you.
Oh no! Don't knock over the fence again.
It knocked over the fence. It knocked over a tree. It's a very powerful round that has a mind of its own. Now, RHS toned it down, but if you look at those two radio towers back there, I've managed to bounce a round from this airstrip past those two radio towers, and then I yelled goal and ran around for 2 minutes because, yeah, the bounce of these are ridiculous.
What happens if you shoot a tank with one?
It won't do anything. Now, we have our fast smoke. Now, I'm going to lay you into a scenario. Let's say Falcon, being our squad leader and an idiot, didn't notice the red smoke over there, and, yeah, we just walked into an ambush, now we're taking heavy fire from that ridgeline. Falcon has been shot by the enemy because he's in an open field. And we need to get our smoke grenades out to cover us as we maneuver somewhere else. Now, smoke grenades take a little while to billow out. So me, being the Chad Grenadier that I am, I'm going to quickly switch to my fast smoke and then fire it. Boom. Smoke. Now, this smoke grenade only is valid for about 10 seconds. But in that 10 seconds of time, see the smoke's already blowing away. Now our smoke grenades have billowed out. We're prone, and we can go crawl to wherever we need to be. That is the power of fast smoke. Unfortunately, Falcon didn't make it because he died. Anyway, does anyone have any questions on any type of smoke grenade we've gone over?
Technically, with the fast smoke, you could chuck your whatever smoke by hand, so it doesn't bounce like a fucking retard, and then shoot your fast smoke while your regular smoke billows out.
Pretty much. If anything, you're basically, as the Grenadier, you're reloading your fast smoke while other people are popping their smoke grenades. That way, it's perfectly timed, and the AI, since we use Blast Core and VCOM, will go from directly targeting you to suppressing. So you can then go prone and miss most of the bullets and crawl away.
Does this thing do damage?
No. At least it shouldn't. It's not supposed to, but I know RHS sometimes glitches out. Here, shoot Falcon with it. If anyone has fast smoke, just shoot him with it. Alright, it does still do damage. So, you've been warned.
Oh.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't kill.
Don't shoot my squad mates with it.
Yes, don't shoot your squad mates. Don't look at Falcon and see that he's dead, because I totally didn't just shoot him. But don't shoot your squad mates, okay? Shooting squad mates is bad.
That's boring.
Alright, so guys, that basically concludes AT and Grenadier training. So I am going to put some goats downrange and grab some BTR 60, so... Tier 5 Fias. Falcon is now banned for a week.
Work it.
Shoot the goats.
1 second. Let me get some BTR 60s in here for contrast. Alright, yeah, guys, feel free to go crazy. I'll be back in a few minutes after I tag all you, so don't leave the server until I come back. Alright, guys, that is going to be it for me. We'll be back at 4 o'clock for,
Shut up, thermal barrack and it killed you.
Nice. Anyway, we'll be back at 4 o'clock for our first of 2 Arma 3 Zeus ops, and then we're gonna be streaming some Warcraft 3 at 9:30 tonight. So thank you for watching. Go operate operationally. Sorry the internet cut. I don't know what caused that. Probably a random internet spike. But cheers, guys. Have a good one. Go operate operationally.
Gimme.